What's up, Bucks fans? In this edition of Buckshot, we're going to go around the IFL and show you some of the places your Bismarck Bucks will be visiting this season. We start out in Grand Island, smallest town in the IFL. Its sports culture is largely defined by Lincoln, the home of the Nebraska Cornhuskers 100 miles away. On Husker game day, the interstate comes alive between the two cities. But in IFL season, the town embraces the danger. And this year, they'll join both of their fans' passions as former Husker quarterback Tommy Armstrong will helm the Danger offense after rewriting the record book at Nebraska and getting a look from the Minnesota Vikings. First formed in 2011, the Nebraska Danger have made the IFL playoffs 6 straight years. With Armstrong's strong arm, they hope to make it 7. The Bucks' second opponent couldn't be more different. After an old team in a smaller town, Bismarck travels to a metropolis to take on the new guys on the block. This last September, the Tucson Sugar Skulls were announced as an expansion IFL team. Tucson became the second Arizona city in the league, along with Phoenix. Tucson does love its college sports, though, with the hometown Arizona Wildcats often making a March Madness run. Desert and mountains dominate the landscape of Tucson, and those cacti represent the farthest the Bucks will go on a trip this year or any other in franchise history. Two IFL newcomers clashing in Week 2 will certainly draw some eyeballs across the league as both teams look to prove themselves at the top level of indoor ball under the sun. After a long homestand, the Bucks hit the road again, this time to take on the two teams to miss the IFL playoffs last year. First up, it's the Cedar Rapids River Kings. Last year, Cedar Rapids Titans went 3-11. But with new ownership comes a new brand, a name change, and hope in the city of 5 seasons. The home of the Quaker Oats factory, Cedar Rapids also has manufactured plenty of household acting names, including Ashton Kutcher and Elijah Wood. NASCAR's Landon Cassill and former NFL quarterback Kurt Warner also grew up in Cedar Rapids. Warner is one of indoor football's greatest success stories, and the River Kings hope to produce similar results in his hometown. After that, the Bucks head to one of America's great football towns, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Home to the NFL's Packers, this market can't get enough gridiron action. Enter the Green Bay Blizzard. A difficult year for GB last year saw them miss the playoffs, but this team has bounced back before. Founded all the way back in 2003, the Blizzard have produced multiple IFL Hall of Famers, including our own color analyst, Coach Robert Fuller. Regardless of results, this town supports their team with football being at the core of this Wisconsin city. That and the cheese. From worst to first, the Bucks' next road foe won the United Cup a year ago. The Iowa Barnstormers of Des Moines went 11-3 en route to their club's first championship. Iowa will return the United Bowl MVP and Ryan Ballantyne, with the 2019 slate looking like another good one in the Iowa capital. One of the major business centers in the Midwest, this busy city also hosts a ton of other sports teams, including the Iowa Cubs, Chicago's AAA team. Few teams come out of the Wells Fargo Arena, or as locals call it, the Well, will win. Bismarck try and do just that. It wouldn't be the first time the Bucks went to a place for the very first time and beat their hosts. They did it just last year, in fact, to their partners in IFL expansion, the Quad City Steamwheelers. The Bucks went down to Moline, Illinois and beat the Wheelers 44-42. In case you're wondering, the other 3 cities in the Quad, in addition to Moline, are Bettendorf, Davenport, and Rock Island, all in Iowa, home to John Deere World Headquarters and the only active U.S. Army foundry on Rock Island. Manufacturing is at the heart of these 4 towns. Quad Cities also has a great sports history as the home of NFL charter member, the Rock Island Independents, and the Tri-Cities Blackhawks, now the Atlanta Hawks, alongside developmental teams like the Quad City Storm. As all those seasons end, Bismarck hopes to repeat history. Speaking of history, Bismarck has some with their final road opponent. Not the Bucks, mind you. They'll be on their first ever trip to Sioux Falls. But one of the driving forces of the move to the IFL for the Bucks is the chance to renew these two cities' rivalry. Throughout the athletics course of both towns, Sioux Falls and Bismarck often find themselves on opposite ends. And taking on one of the IFL's core and premier members be no exception, as the Bucks do battle with the Sioux Falls Storm, one of the most successful teams in the league every single year with 10 championships. The Storm are at the heart of this sports town. This sports hub in Sioux Falls serves as the spot for a ton of postseason tournaments as well. Athletic competition is never far in Sioux Falls, and Bismarck will need to play their best game to close out the regular season. In indoor football, there's a saying, every guy in this league has a story. Well, the league's towns do too. We've shown you just a fraction of the culture of the Bucks Road foes. There'll be plenty more to unveil throughout the season here on Beck Sports. And of course, teams all across the Indoor Football League are going to learn a whole lot about Bismarck, North Dakota. That's going to do it for this edition of Buckshot. We'll talk to you next time. For Beck Sports, I'm Corey Brooks.